now a story from Alaska, where conditions on the Yukon River are forcing native people to change how they live and eat.
So our research group has identified over 75 impaired streams and rivers across the Brooks Range. The Arctic ecosystem as a whole, both aquatic environments and human health, are threatened by this change in water chemistry across the region.
And the one that we see most visually is iron, which why the rivers look like they're rusting.
So some toxic metals that we're seeing include zinc, copper, nickel, lead. Metals are toxic to fish, and so this can have a negative impact on aquatic ecosystem health.
Chum was one of the most abundant types of salmon on the Yukon, until its numbers unexpectedly crashed last summer. This chum is likely the only chum his family will eat this year.
And so it's going to help us taste salmon in the winter months. We prefer to get our own salmon put away for ourselves. But since we don't have it, I'm happy for these.
Normally in summer, Yupik families like Kamarovs catch, smoke, and put away hundreds of these fish for the winter, in a process known as subsistence fishing. But now, that's not allowed due to the collapse. State scientists have attributed the salmon crash to marine heat waves caused by climate change.
Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel here. It's me here, Comrade Lavender here, and today I'm back with another anti-capitalism true crime YouTube video topic. Sorry I haven't been making videos recently. I'm going through a lot and it's been a really stressful time, so I'm sorry for not uploading any videos, but today I'm back and I want to talk about a subject. The subject of Alaska's rivers turning into toxic, acidic, heavy metal, vinegary soup from climate change, and how the climate change crisis caused by capitalism is contributing to the Yukon salmon collapse. So let's get started into this YouTube video topic. Alaska rivers are turning bright orange, as acidic as vinegar, as toxic metals escape from the melting permafrost due to the capitalism-caused climate change crisis. Alaska's melting permafrost is dumping toxic metals into the state's rivers, turning them bright orange and making the water highly acidic. The contaminated rivers are so vibrant they can actually be seen from space. The problem is likely to get much worse in the future. In the new study, which was published May 20th in the Journal of Communications, Earth, and Environment, researchers identified at least 75 orange rivers and streams in a Texas-sized area of Alaska's Brooks mountain range. Most of the affected waterways were initially spotted by a helicopter survey of the area. The more we flew around, we started noticing and realizing more and more orange rivers and streams. An ecologist with the National Park Service, Arctic Inventory and Monitoring Network said in a statement, "There are certain sites that almost look like a milky orange juice. Chemical analysis of the rusty rivers in gold, copper, cadmium, as well as iron, which is largely responsible for the orange hue of the waterways. Researchers also found that polluted waterways were unusually acidic. Some of the small streams had pH levels of low as 2.3, which is around the same as lemon juice or vinegar. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, the high metal concentration and acidity of the water can both be tied to melting permafrost, a permanently frozen layer of Earth's surface that covers large swaths of the Arctic. As the frozen ground thaws, thanks to the capitalism-caused climate change crisis, previously sealed minerals are exposed to rain for the first time in thousands of years, allowing these metals to dissolve other rocks into surrounding streams and rivers which feed larger rivers. Not only are the affected habitats visually transformed, but the high mineral concentrations are also highly toxic to most aquatic life. Researchers are particularly worried about what the toxic meltwater could be doing to spawning fish, which could have a major knock-on effects on U.S. fisheries / the U.S. seafood fishing industry. It's too hot for salmon. How climate change is contributing to the Yukon salmon collapse. Researchers have identified many threats facing Yukon king and chum salmon under a microscope. Salmon tissue infected with Ichthyophonus appears molted with big white dots. Each one is a single parasite that will grow, draining the fish's energy and resources and causing cells to die. From the parasite can't harm humans, but it does kill fish. As salmon are making their journey upstream, they're especially vulnerable. Often infected, fish look completely normal from the outside, but their flesh on the inside will have a spotty or patchy white pattern, where the parasite is growing inside them. Importantly, affected fish aren't good to eat. Researchers saw a big spike in king parasite levels in the early 2000s, and around 30% of kings showed detectable levels. Levels dropped off more than a decade, and then in 2020, the parasite was back with a vengeance. In recent years, more than 40% of the Yukon king run has shown detectable levels of these parasites. It's unclear what is driving the spike. Other researchers have found that Yukon king salmon eggs are low in vitamin called thiamine, which may cause weakened immune systems. Ferguson said warming river water may also play a role. Salmon are cold-blooded fish, meaning they can't regulate their internal temperature. When the river gets above 65 degrees Fahrenheit, that's a problem. And in a 2020 study, Biela found that an average year and a half of all Yukon kings swimming upriver have heat stress. Scientists say all three of these factors, disease, parasites, heat waves, and a lack of food, exacerbate each other, making the problem worse. A fish that didn't get enough to eat is already weaker when it starts its journey up the Yukon, and a parasite and heat stress added to that, and the fish is a lot less likely to make it to the spawning grounds to reproduce, which means few fish next year. Yukon river fish also have the longest salmon migration paths on Earth, traveling as much as 2,000 miles to get to their spawning grounds. The idea for the new study was seeded back in 2018 when researchers visited a rusty-covered river that had been crystal clear just a year earlier. However, subsequent satellite sloughing images of orange rivers dating back as far as 2008. As water gets more acidic over time, it'll also make it easier for even more metals to dissolve from the newly thawed permafrost, creating a worryingly positive feedback loop where the problem gets exponentially worse. The melting of the permafrost is also likely to birth more in rivers in places like Alaska and Siberia, which would further exacerbate the issue. There are lots of other issues and serious implications of this to losing permafrost coverage, such as releasing more greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, as well as uncovering radioactive materials and unleashing dormant viruses, which can spark new pandemics.